Have you ever wondered how business is going? Yes, we are always wondering how business is. How's business with you? How's business with you? Today we're going to be talking about business in Genesee County and maybe a bit beyond that, and also some events that are going on there. We have a special guest on who's going to tell us all about it here on this week's version of the State of Greater Western New York Report, and it's brought to you by...
Each week, our community makes history. Each week, you make history. And each week, there's only one source to turn to for the first take on history. You know what that is? Subscribe to the Sentinel right now to discover the history being made in your own backyard. The Linden Honey Lake Falls Lima Sentinel. More than just your news, it's your history. Welcome, everyone, to this edition of the State of Greater Western New York Report. Join us each episode as we discuss fantastic topics ranging from history to science to the strange and the wonderful, as well as the treasured spirit with which our region has infused America. We challenge you to consider all things Greater Western New York, from our region's very beginnings to how it inspires, how it empowers, and why it is so admired. Here's the host of the State of Greater Western New York Report, Chris Carosa.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to this week's version of the State of Greater Western New York Report. I'm delighted to introduce our guest this week. His name is Erik Fix. He's the president of the Genesee County Chamber of Commerce. Erik, how are you doing today?
Very well, thanks. Beautiful day. A little hot out, but I'm sitting here in a nice air-conditioned office. So I guess we're good.
Right. So before we start off, Erik, why don't you give us a little brief rundown on who you are, what you do, and then we'll go on from there.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I'm the father of three growing boys. I have 13, 15, 17-year-old sons who are preparing right now for fall sports and hopefully an in-person school year. And my wife of almost 20 years and I live in Leroy, New York. She's an administrator for the Greece School District. Been born and bred in Genesee County, born in Batavia many years ago. Basically either lived or worked here my whole entire life, and absolutely love it. To your point, I think there's a lot of hidden gems here in Genesee County, and really enjoy being a part of it.
That's great. Thanks, sir. Do your kids play football at all?
Two of them do. One plays soccer. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. For Leroy or for Batavia?
For Leroy.
For Leroy. Okay. I was going to say it was good that it's not Batavia because that's our high school football team beat their high school football team last year in the championship or whatever. So, hey, but that's okay. So tell us a little bit about the Genesee County Chamber of Commerce. When did it start? How big is it? How do you join? That sort of thing.
Sure. Well, the Chamber of Commerce for Genesee County actually started when the Batavia Chamber and the Leroy Chamber merged in 1972. So actually, this year is going to be our 50th year in 2022, and we're kind of ramping up with some special events and some things like that for when that happens. We currently have just shy of 500 business members, and they range from anything from, an individual contractor all the way up to some of our major manufacturers in the county, and everything in between. A lot of retail, a lot of mom and pops, and we try to cater to as many of them as we possibly can. Joining is simple. You go online to our website, www.geneseeny.com. You can sign up there. You can give us a call at the chamber. We'll stop out. We'll make it as easy as possible to join.
So do you have regular meetings, and what other sort of services do you provide members?
So we don't have regular membership meetings. Instead, we're out there. Our biggest thing is we're trying to promote, support, and connect with as many of our members as possible. So we'll promote what they're doing and how they're doing it every way, shape, or form. Social media. We've got a chamber chat, a biweekly newsletter that goes out via email. We have a quarterly newsletter that goes out in the mail. We do a business directory every year, which actually just got delivered to every single household in Genesee County with the help of the Penny Saver. That lists every single one of our member businesses, as well as a directory of services in Genesee County. So we try to promote as much as possible. We are the TPA, the tourism agency for Genesee County. So we have a tourism department that is not only promoting our members, but promoting tourism in general throughout the county. And then we try to support and connect them. So support them in however they need fit. Through the COVID time, that was a lot of, hey, how do you apply for a PPP loan? How do you get your hands on some of this additional funding that's available? And then we always are trying to make connections with our members, whatever their needs are, whether that's connecting them with another member or just, helping them connect to potential customers and clients. That's what we're here to do.
You mentioned COVID, and that makes me think of this question, and that is, as a chamber, what's the greatest challenge that you faced over this last year and a half during these pandemic times?
Well, I'll first of all say that I've been with the chamber for 5 months, so I've been dealing with the COVID piece with them since then. But I do know that as a chamber, one of the biggest things was, what are we going to do ourselves as an organization? And so obviously we rely a lot on the bed tax revenue that comes in for the tourism department. And with lack of travel and things like that, the bed tax was way down. So we had to look at, how do we keep our expenses down? How can we afford to stay open ourselves? And so that we furlonged staff. Everybody kind of went from full-time to part-time. The office had one person here at all times just to answer the phones and keep things running. So we, obviously from a chamber standpoint, that was our number one thing. But then the second thing was, how do we make ourselves accessible, and how can we be a help and a service to our members? So while folks were working from home, they split up the list of members, and everybody had a personal call with our membership to check in, to see what it was they needed, to see how we could help, what assistance we could provide for them. Can we help them out with their PPP loans? Can we put them in touch with somebody from the SBA? There's this involved, that involved. We actually also became very involved with helping at the vaccination clinics and at the testing clinics that the county had set up. We've helped deliver personal protective equipment and that type of thing. So we really just kind of turned into, how can we serve our community best and help out those folks that need it.
So the name Genesee County in your name, it doesn't necessarily imply that you work for the county as a municipal department. So how exactly do you work with the county as a whole and the towns within it? Or are there town-based chambers that fall under your umbrella? How does that all structure?
Yeah, so there's not necessarily other town-based chambers. The city of Batavia has the BID, the Batavia Downtown Association, that kind of does a little bit with a small portion of downtown Batavia. Leroy has the Leroy Business Council. There's the Oakville Betterment Council. There's the Elba Betterment Council. They all have these little things, but chambers as they exist, we're the only one in the county. We are not a county entity from the standpoint that we report up to the county manager or anything like that. However, we do receive funding via the bed tax from the county, so we work very closely with them to ensure that we're meeting the needs of the entire county. And that's the biggest thing for us. We try to really, especially in Genesee County, when you have such a centrally focused area in the city of Batavia, we're trying to really ensure that we're reaching out to all the municipalities and the businesses throughout the county, and keeping that broad focus on Genesee County.
You mentioned that you've only been on the job for about 5 months. Tell us a little bit about that transition. I mean, what was it like to kind of go into this knowing that we were basically under a lockdown, and what experience did you have that helped you, charter this course? Yeah,
so I've been in nonprofits for most of my life. I helped run the Glow YMCA for about 18 years, pivoted from that into the director of United Way for Genesee County for another 7 years. And then after that, I actually went and took a job with M&T Bank and had the opportunity to be a branch manager up in Rochester and then later in Oakfield, just down the road. So I've got vast experience in nonprofit management and came in with kind of a plan for it. Actually, I think it was somewhat a good thing that we were sort of, quote unquote, coming out of COVID, because it allowed us to really look at what we're doing and how we're doing it, and not necessarily start from scratch, but maybe do some things that we didn't do before. Maybe look at some things that we've been doing that we maybe need to change or do a little bit differently. And so it was a great opportunity. I followed what I like to call a legend. Tom Turnbull was here for 8 years. If anybody knows Tom, they love Tom. And he did a really great job here in setting the chamber up for success for the future. And I'm just trying to keep that ball rolling and ensure that we're doing what we need to do.
So what was your biggest surprise when you entered that chair?
The biggest surprise the biggest surprise was how much stuff Tom kept. I've got about 6 credenzas here that I'm still trying to go through, but we've got stuff dating all the way back to 2008 in the office. That's the physical chair sitting here in the room. The biggest surprise for me, as far as the role goes, is really just how much of a need there is in our county for somebody like the chamber to take the ball and take a leadership role in a lot of different ways. In some regards, Genesee County being as rural as we are, there's kind of a lot of silos. There's kind of a lot of different people doing the same kind of things throughout the community. And I think there's a really big need for somebody like the chamber to rally everybody around a common focus and a common vision and a common goal. And that's one of the things that we're slowly starting to wrap our hands around a little bit.
You mentioned rural, and I'm thinking Genesee County, actually, with the thruway going through it, is a crossroads in a way. And so you have this, I guess, well, explain this for us. Is it kind of like a dual kind of a business environment? What does that crossroads mean? And how does that differ, say, then from the silos that you mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, the crossroads concept. So the thruway actually goes through Genesee County. We have 3 thruway stops, Pembroke, Leroy, and here in Batavia. And obviously, each one can take you pretty much any place else you want to go in Western New York, right? And with Route 5 going right through our county, it really can be kind of a hub. And, you know, agencies like the GC, EDC here in town and the county's, you know, focus on business development has really helped to create opportunities around that thruway, right? And so there's tech parks and ag parks and everything that are really combined here. And they're here because we have an opportunity to be, you know, close to the thruway, close to major expressways that run right through us. In fact, sometimes it takes forever to get through Batavia because of the traffic that's going on there. But, you know, so we're positioning ourselves to really kind of be, if you see our logo, it's the in-between of 2 metropolitan areas with Buffalo and Rochester. And we're really trying to be that. How can we be that hub of commercial business and really provide that rural benefits that come with, you know, standard of living and hometown feel and great people with, you know, the growing need for ag tech and other entities like that in our community.
You know, it's funny you mentioned hub. Do you remember, this was a while ago, that at some point they were talking about building an airport, a metropolitan airport in Batavia that would serve both Buffalo and Rochester? This might be 30 or 40 years ago. So
that's probably a little bit before my time, but we wouldn't mind having the new Bill Stadium here.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to say, is that since the time when they built what was then Rich Stadium, before they built Rich Stadium, Batavia was a viable candidate as between Rochester and Buffalo. So it's
our former. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's interesting. Go ahead.
Our former county manager, Jay Gazelle, that was a big thing for him. He thought it would be perfect and wanted that to happen. So
yeah, it certainly would make the Western New York Bills be the Western New York Bills. But I like the Buffalo Bills anyway, the way they are. I mean, it's there's a lot of good things about it. So, do you see?
I'm fine with that being an Orchard Park.
Yeah. I mean, that was the other thing I was going to ask. You're actually still pretty close to the stadium, and do you get any business, or do you see any business as a result of the Bills, even though they might just be driving through?
Yeah, and it actually, you know, from the standpoint of where we are, and one of the things that we're even finding through COVID is the way that our tourism department is tracking our hotels and what's actually going on in our community. In the past, it would be a lot of hotel traffic around, you know, Six Flags Darien Lake and their concert series, and various things that were actually happening in Genesee County were the reason a lot of people are stopping. Now we're finding that people are finding us a little bit more affordable to stay, only a 45-minute to an hour drive to Niagara Falls, to downtown Buffalo, to, you know, Rochester. Obviously, Six Flags is still really big here. And so we're finding a lot of our tourist is kind of shifting a little bit. We're not getting, obviously, the people coming over the border, which is really huge for us in Genesee County for a tourism standpoint. But we are finding that people are traveling a little bit differently, and they're finding Genesee County to be a really nice stopping off point for all those places.
All right, Eric. Well, great. In the second half, we're going to be talking a little bit about, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of those events and activities and maybe points of interest in and around Genesee County that you might be interested in going to or exploring. But speaking about exploring, let's take a break right now, and we'll be right back.
Through the mists of time, nature and man have both created and buried treasures beyond the imagination. With the ages, these riches slowly dissolve into mere myths until they are forever forgotten. But there are those brave souls who tirelessly cling to the truth, ever seeking to discover the undiscovered, to reveal what has always been there, to uncover the hidden gems of a land thought forsaken but loved by millions. 50 Hidden Gems of Greater Western New York. Discover the secrets in your own backyard. Buy your copy now at 50hiddengems.com.
Welcome back to the State of Greater Western New York Report. I'm your host, Chris Carosa, and we've got Erik Fix. He's the president of the Genesee County Chamber of Commerce. Erik, tell us a little bit about the types of activities that the Chamber is doing. Before we get into any sort of tourism things, tell us specifically about what the Chamber has planned for, say, the next few months or maybe the coming year.
Well, nothing as intense as that commercial just was. That was kind of crazy. One of the things that we're trying to do at the Chamber is increase the amount of opportunities we have to connect our members to other members, and do that through special events. So we've got a few things coming up. We actually have been trying to schedule 2 to 3 special events every month, and we actually did now finally have them scheduled out through the end of this year, and we're working into next year. So one of the things that we do on a monthly basis that we've kind of put on hold for COVID, but we're bringing back, is our business after hours. And that's just an opportunity for one of our member businesses to host folks at their site, talk a little bit about what they're doing, and then we spend time just networking and enjoying each other's company. So we've got one of those coming up on September 16th at Stafford Country Club. And then in October, we're actually going to be over on the 14th at Cedar Street Sales and Rentals. Guy Clark, the owner of Cedar Street, just built a brand new warehouse that he wants to show off to us. And they've always been great hosts for us. So we've got a couple of business after hours coming up. We've got some workshops coming up next week. On Wednesday, the 1st, we're doing a speed networking event at Pub Coffee Hub. And that's kind of, if you've heard of speed dating, it's kind of the same kind of concept. Everybody's going to sit down with each other and they're going to have 2 minutes to give you a little pitch on what it is you do. And it's just a way of getting folks to meet new people and hopefully make connections that can be sustainable going on. We have 2 larger events that we are part of or supporting with other entities. The first one is the Glow With Your Hands event at the County Fairgrounds on Tuesday, September 28th. That is an event that is part of a collaboration with our workforce development folks, the GCEDC, the Business Economics Alliance, the Ag Society, and many others. And really what that is, it's an opportunity for students in the Glow region. I think this year they're estimating about 700 students to come out to the fairgrounds and really get their hands in on what some of these jobs that are going to be available to them are. So they can get in the backhoe and they can dig a hole. They can learn how to spot weld. They can do those types of things. And as a chamber, we're just kind of supporting that with volunteering and obviously promoting it as much as we can. And then in October, every year we have an annual agriculture annual decision makers tour. And this year's tour is at Draves Arboretum. And I tell people all the time, if you don't know what an arboretum is, Google it, because I can barely say it, let alone describe it. But Draves has just hundreds and hundreds of acres available out there, and it's free to the public. We do have a few spots left on Wednesday, October 6th. It used to be where you get on a bus and you take you around to a couple places and highlight the ag businesses that we have in Genesee County. This year, obviously, we're asking folks to drive out there just due to COVID. We can reduce any type of exposure for that we can, we will. And then, of course, we have our annual State of the Chamber annual meeting on November 18th. It's going to be at Terry Hills this year, Terry Hills Golf Course and Restaurant, who are great members of ours. We're going to be out there and just kind of bringing folks up to speed on what we're doing and where we're going in the future. So that's kind of that, and a few other things is what we got going on.
Can you tell us very quickly, GLOW, for those in the audience who aren't familiar with the term, what does it stand for and how did it come about?
I honestly don't know how it came about. GLOW stands for Genesee, Livingston, Orleans, and Wyoming. So it's the little L that's made there by Orleans at the top, Genesee, Wyoming, and then next to us is Livingston. And I think it's just my first time using it was when I was at the YMCA, and we went from being the Batavia Y to being the GLOW Y because we had branches in Medina, built a branch in Warsaw, and have been doing programming in Livingston County. So we started using that acronym, but it started long before that. But it's really, I think, being used because they're 4 like counties. They're all kind of rural. They're all stuck in between Buffalo, Rochester. And it's kind of just a way, and we use it, especially in our tourism, to do a lot of joint work and joint advertising for our area. And it just seemed to make sense to call it GLOW. I don't know if WOGL would have worked, so GLOW definitely sounds a lot better.
Who's in charge of that? Is there a board, each representing one of the 4 counties?
For the Glow with Your Hands event, is that what you're referring to?
Well, I was actually referring to GLOW in general. Is it something that's done by the counties individually, or is it done by the chambers within those counties?
GLOW itself is just an acronym that we use anytime that you're talking about something that involves those communities. There's not, to my knowledge, any type of formal entity that's called GLOW. It's just anytime that the 4 counties are together doing any type of event, or you've got, like in the case of the YMCA, you've got an entity that uses, spans through those 4 areas. They just refer to it as GLOW.
Well, it might be interesting at some point in the future to have those representatives on the show all together, just to talk about some of the activities that GLOW does beyond the one that you just talked about. Because we've interviewed other people from other chambers before, and they constantly refer to GLOW as something that exists. And I think a lot of people outside of those 4 counties might not be familiar with it, and it might be a very good model, not necessarily that everybody would want to use, but certainly a good model that people can look to and see how it works and how there is this intermunicipal, intercounty, interorganizational sort of effort that's going on. Tell us a little bit about... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think a lot of us are just too small to handle a lot of that stuff on our own, so we rely on our neighbors.
Yeah, and I think that's a great story. And it's a very Western New York story, by the way. If you go back historically, you do see that neighbor helping neighbor is a very relevant theme. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the tourism thing. I know there's a lot of attractions in Genesee County. Can you tell us a little bit, highlight a few of those for us?
Yeah, well, I was laughing, watching your commercial because, one of the ones that we love to promote and help out with, and I know I saw pictures in there, is our Jello Museum in Leroy House out in Leroy. Lynn Belushi does a great job of curating that. Obviously the history behind that is that Jello was started in Leroy, and for a long time there was the Jello factory, where they made it, and then later as it got sold, they moved out of town. But the Jello Museum is a hidden gem. My favorite part about it, and don't tell Lynn I said this, but she would probably agree, our Little League field for Leroy is right behind it, shares a parking lot. So it's kind of a unique thing. You can come in the summer and you can take in a Little League game on a Saturday and go into the museum after that. Obviously, our largest two attractions in Genesee County are Six Flags Darien Lake, whether it's going to the theme park or, seeing a concert, which they just started their summer concert series up. I believe last week was their first concert, or maybe even last night. But that's one of our major seasonal attractions. And then Batavia Downs Raceway and Casino, obviously, is year-round with racing interspersed in that, and they are one of our other major places. But to your point, there's a lot of hidden gems throughout our county, different nice little artisan shops and things like that. You got Cutter's Cheese up in Darien. You've got, obviously, Oliver's Candies is world-renowned. Restaurants all over the board, from the Red Osier, and now in downtown Batavia, Eli Fish is getting more and more reputable for what they're doing. And if you ever like ribs, there's always Alex's Place. So there's plenty to see and do in the county. If you go to our website in our county, visit Genesee.com, you will see, and my light just went off, you will see that there's a lot of other great places to go and things to do throughout our county.
So without the light, you have a wonderful tan. So
there you go. I should have left it off all along.
I want to say that that commercial, by the way, there's another thing featured from Genesee County, which I think is probably right down your street, the Holland Land Trust Museum,
yes.
Which is a lot of history there. And, the other interesting thing, and I don't know if you ever thought about this, so do you realize that the greater Western New York region, the big, huge footprint, the 17 westernmost counties, for many years was called Genesee Country? And, well, there's Genesee Country Museum. We had them on a few weeks ago. How has that ever come up as a confusing thing, Genesee County versus Genesee Country?
Not necessarily that I'm aware of overall, but when we were, where the confusion comes. So when I was at United Way, we were actually the Genesee Country United Way. And the reason for that is because Genesee County, Michigan, already had that title. And we do get quite a bit of Genesee County. We get calls probably once or twice a week from somebody thinking we're Genesee County, Michigan, and asking about something that's going on in Flint or something like that. And we get a lot of Batavia, Illinois, and some things like that. So that there's some interesting stuff that we get at the chamber from that standpoint. And as a child, my grandmother was huge on museums, and we had to take a yearly trip out to the Genesee Country Museum, which at the time we just called Mumford Museum. And we would go to the Holland Land office twice a year because I had an aunt who had like one painting or something in there. We had to go look at it twice a year. So the whole piece about, the history of Batavia and the Holland Land Trust and all that is very fresh in my mind.
I was going to say that when I did research on that book and some of the articles that I do, I'll often have to look up Batavia, and I always get Batavia, Illinois. So it's
Yep.
not all the time, obviously, but it's an issue that comes up. So in terms of, let's just do this because we're about ready to wrap up. Did you have any closing thoughts that you wanted to share with the audience?
Just Genesee County is open for business. I mean, come on down. If you haven't been here, you want to take a day trip, call our office, go on our website. You'll find plenty of opportunities to spend your day or your weekend here. We just wrapped up a very successful season of Batavia Muck Dog Baseball, which it was the first year that we weren't part of the New York Penn League. And we actually had quite a few local college athletes playing, and it was a great time. Attendance was tripled from what it had been in the past. So in the summer, there's plenty to do. Fall and winter, obviously spring. You'll always find something here to do, and we are open. And if you haven't been here, you haven't been here in a while, stop on down and see all the great things we have to do here in Genesee County.
Well, Erik, thank you very much. And thank you all for watching today's version of the State of Greater Western New York report. If you'd like to be a member of the audience, we did have a couple of audience questions that came in that I referred to Erik to answer. If you have a question, or if you'd like to be a member of the private invitation only audience, then go to stateof.greaterwesternnewyork.com. That's stateof.greaterwesternnewyork.com. greaterwesternnewyork.com, and you can sign up to receive the invitation for the live audience. Remember, this is always also rebroadcast every Sunday at 1:30 on our YouTube and Facebook channels, as well as is posted later in the afternoon on Thursday on our site, state.greaterwesternnewyork.com. So thanks again, Erik, for being a part of today's show, and thank you all for attending today's episode of the State of Greater Western New York Report. We'll see you next week.